The winter wind howled across the Polish airbase as Captain Olena Koval stood beside the sleek F-16 fighter jet, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. It was 3:27 a.m., and the runway lights cast long shadows across the frozen tarmac. She had dreamed of this moment for months, ever since the Americans had agreed to train Ukrainian pilots on these powerful machines. But now, with her hand resting on the cold metal of the aircraft, doubt crept into her mind like the biting cold seeping through her flight suit. The radio on her collar crackled to life. "Koval, this is command. We have a situation developing. Russian air defense systems along the border have gone to maximum alert status. They know something is happening. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from." Alena's heart began to race as she climbed into the cockpit. Her American instructor, Major Sarah Chun, appeared at the base of the ladder, her face tight with concern. "Olena, you don't have to do this tonight," Sarah said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "We can wait. We can plan this better." But Olena shook her head, remembering the faces of her squadron back home, the ones who hadn't made it through the early days of the war. "My people are counting on me, Sarah. Every day we wait, more lives are lost. I have to show them that help is coming." Sarah nodded slowly, understanding the weight of duty that pressed down on the younger pilot's shoulders. "Then fly smart, fly safe, and come back to us." The cockpit felt different from the older jets Olena had trained on back in Ukraine. Everything was more advanced, more responsive, almost alive beneath her fingertips. As she ran through her pre-flight checks, her mind wandered to her younger brother, Dmitri, who was serving in an infantry unit near Kharkiv. She had promised him she would return home with wings that could protect him. The tower's voice cut through her thoughts. "Ghost 1, you are cleared for takeoff. Weather conditions are deteriorating. You have a 30-minute window before the storm front moves in." Olena pushed the throttle forward, feeling the raw power of the American jet surge beneath her. The F-16 roared down the runway, and within seconds, she was airborne, climbing into the dark sky. The Polish countryside disappeared below her as she gained altitude. Through her helmet display, she could see the border approaching, a thin line on her digital map that separated safety from danger. Intelligence had reported unusual Russian aircraft movements throughout the night, but the exact nature of the threat remained unclear. "Ghost 1, be advised," the controller's voice crackled in her ears. "We're picking up multiple radar signatures crossing into the buffer zone. At least 4 aircraft, possibly Su-35s. They're moving fast." Olena's grip tightened on the control stick. The Russians were testing the boundaries again, probing for weaknesses. But something felt different tonight. They were more aggressive, more deliberate in their movements. She leveled off at 20,000 feet, her eyes scanning the horizon. The moon broke through the clouds for a moment, illuminating the landscape below in silver light. That's when she saw them. For dark shapes moving in formation, their contrails barely visible against the night sky. They were closer to the border than they should be, dancing along the edge of Polish airspace. "Command, I have visual contact on the targets," Olena reported, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Wait, something's wrong. They're not holding their patrol pattern." The lead aircraft suddenly broke formation, diving toward the border at high speed. Olena's training took over, and she banked hard to intercept, the G-forces pressing her back into her seat. "Ghost 1, do not engage. Do not engage," the frantic voice came through her radio. "We're getting reports of a downed aircraft on the Ukrainian side, a civilian medical helicopter. The Russians claim it violated their airspace." Olena's blood ran cold. A medical helicopter. She knew what that meant. Wounded soldiers being transported to safety, doctors and nurses trying to save lives. The Russian pilot was moving to finish what his missiles had started. "Command, I'm closest to the crash site," Olena said, making a decision that could change everything. "I'm going in." She pushed the F-16 to its limits, screaming across the sky at nearly the speed of sound. Below her, she could see the orange glow of flames in a snow-covered field just inside Ukrainian territory. The Russian Su-35 was circling like a predator, preparing for another pass. Olena activated her targeting system, locking onto the enemy aircraft. Her finger hovered over the weapon release, but she knew that firing would mean crossing a line. This was still technically a training mission. She wasn't officially at war in this aircraft. Then her radio burst to life with a different voice, weak and broken. "This is Medic 7. We have survivors. 3 soldiers, 2 crew. Please, someone help us." The Russian pilot began his attack run. Time seemed to slow down as Olena made her choice. She didn't fire her weapons. Instead, she dove between the Russian fighter and the crash site, positioning her F-16 as a shield. The message was clear. To attack the helicopter, he would have to go through her first. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. The Russian pilot held his position, surely radiating his commander for orders, trying to understand why an American F-16 with Ukrainian markings was challenging him over the border. Olena's radio crackled again, but this time it was a different Russian voice, cold and calculating. "Ukrainian pilot in the American jet, you are in violation of Russian airspace defense protocols. Withdraw immediately or you'll be engaged." Olena took a deep breath, thinking of Dmitri, of Sarah, of all the people depending on her to make the right choice. "Negative," she replied in Russian, her voice firm. "You are targeting wounded personnel. Under international law, medical aircraft are protected. I will not withdraw until they are evacuated." The tension stretched out like a wire ready to snap. On the ground, she could see lights approaching the crash site. Ukrainian rescue teams, racing against time. The Russian pilot made a decision. He pulled up sharply, breaking off his attack, and turned back toward his own airspace. Whether it was because he didn't want to risk an international incident or because something in Olena's words had reached him, she would never know. As he disappeared into the darkness, Olena circled the crash site, providing cover until the rescue teams could extract the survivors. It was 5:42 a.m. when she finally turned back toward Poland. The first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. When she landed back at the Polish base, Major Chin was waiting on the tarmac, along with a crowd of other pilots and ground crew. As Olena climbed down from the cockpit, her legs shaking with exhaustion and relief, Sarah pulled her into a tight embrace. "That was either the bravest or the craziest thing I've ever seen," Sarah said, stepping back to look at her student. "Command is having a fit, but those medics and soldiers are alive because of you." Olena smiled weakly, removing her helmet. "I just did what any pilot would do, what any human should do." Later, as she sat in the debriefing room, warming her hands on a cup of coffee, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Dmitri. "I heard what you did tonight, sis. The whole unit is talking about the ghosts who faced down the Russians. Come home safe. We need you." Olena looked out the window at the F-16 being refueled and prepared for its next mission. The war was far from over, and there would be many more dangerous nights ahead. But tonight, she had proven something important, not just to herself, but to everyone watching. Courage wasn't about the weapons you carried or the power of your aircraft. It was about the choices you made when everything was on the line, about standing between the helpless and the harm, no matter the cost. She finished her coffee and stood up, ready to face whatever came next. The ghosts would fly again,